So glad to have you here. Trying to get back into the schedule and the sort of things with filming and then with regards to editing, etc. So I'll try to be doing a lot of filming this week and editing as well, maybe more in the evenings, etc. And we will see how it goes. I've been getting so distracted, but I'm trying to get back on track. But like when I say distracted, it's like not always like it's a focus on other things. It doesn't mean distracted. It can be other things that I have to do, but just not focused on this. So it's kind of hard to find a good balance. At the start of the channel, I was so focused on the channel, etc. But that's not really realistic with life and everything else going on, etc. So also with doing more running and going to the run clubs more. Like even this week, I think I'll be going like 3 different times, just because I enjoy it and it's nice to be social and all of that. So yeah. So next up, today's video is about the strangest things ever dug out of the ground. I don't know, ChatGPT gave me this idea. I'm struggling for ideas. I picked one. I was in a rush. Not rush, but like I wanted to start filming. Not that it was getting dark, but I wanted to get into it. Have run club to go to later. All of that, Also be getting dark at some point, but still. So humanity has been looking to the stars, searching for secrets that outer space is hiding. But deep underground, within the soil of our planet, of our own planet, there are literal troves of fantastic things just waiting to be discovered. So how can you talk about excavations and not mention Egypt? In 2019, archaeologists uncovered the tomb of a high official in South Saqqara who lived about 4,400 years ago. His name was Kiwi, and the hieroglyphs on the walls of the tomb recited his many titles, one of which was the sole friend of the pharaoh of the time. The discovery could have been pretty usual for Egypt, if not for the tomb's interior. The walls, the ceiling, and even parts of the floor were covered in hieroglyphs, pictures, and intricate patterns. But what surprised the scientists the most was how well preserved the colors of those images were. Despite the cracks and chips on the walls and the ceilings, they were still bright and vivid, almost as if they had been recently painted. In Israel, a whole city was discovered by archaeologists in 2019. It dates back 5,000 years to the early Bronze Age and was home to about 6,000 people. Millions of tools, fragments of pottery items, and stone vessels were found at the site. Scientists say the city was so huge it could be called the New York of the period. The megalopis was carefully planned with dozens of streets, alleyways, and public and residential areas. Archaeologists state that the citizens used to live and trade not only with different regions but also with various cultures and kingdoms. Bar Hill is an Iron Age settlement in eastern England. Archaeologists suddenly stumbled upon a very unusual thing there. As they were scouting the area, they looked inside one particular ditch and found thousands of frog bones. Later, calculations showed more than 8,000 bones belonged to frogs and toads. There were no signs of damage. The bones lay in heaps and piles. Scientists have no idea what could have drawn so many frogs and toads to a single place. It's known that local people of the time ate frogs, so the settlement's inhabitants could have brought them there. Other versions state that frogs could have come for the large amounts of insects feeding on the crops, or they may have been looking for a body of water and got trapped in the ditch. As for now, the frog mystery remains unsolved. OMG. Not so much mysterious as amusing, and nearly 1,000 of writing tablets, but this particular one was especially curious because of its contents. The stone mentioned some Secundians and said a pretty nasty thing about him. In fact, this is the first stone graffiti ever found that indicates Romans did have quarrels among themselves. A rancher in Wyoming, not far from the town of Newcastle, was going about his ranching business when he suddenly stumbled upon a weird bone sticking out from the soil. As he carefully dug it out, he realized the bone belonged to a huge creature. It was larger than a bear, but even so, there were no bears in the area. The rancher called scientists to figure out what it was all about. When they evacuated the parts, they ended up with 3 skeletons of dinosaurs, Triceratops to be precise. Researchers were astounded by the discovery for 2 reasons. First, the skeletons were surprisingly complete. There were limb, bones, skull parts, feet, and parts of tails. Second, Triceratops had been considered loners because all the previously found skeletons were found alone. In this case, there were 3 of them. One seemed to be a youth, while the 2 others were probably its parents. Judging by the tooth marks on the bones of the largest of the 3, a T-Rex attacked the family, and they couldn't escape from the huge predator. The catacombs of Paris are yet to be fully charted, and strange things keep coming up down there. One of them was found in August 2004. The local police were having a routine training exercise in the caverns not far from the Eiffel Tower when they unexpectedly came upon a large cave transformed into a fully equipped movie theater. The chamber had an arena where the viewers would sit, a full-size screen, a projector, and many movies to watch. Interestingly, they were all regular ones, featuring 50s noir films and more recent pictures. There was also a second, smaller cavern adjacent to the first one, which was used as a restaurant. Someone installed an electricity system and at least 3 phone lines in the underground cinema. But the most sinister thing happened when the officers returned to the site 3 days later to further investigate the matter. They found that all the power cables and phone lines had been cut, and a mysterious handwritten note was lying in the middle of the floor saying, "Do not try to find us." Nobody still knows who built that underground movie theater and why. Yeah, honestly, the catacombs. I wanted to go there when we were in Paris, or we were maybe going to go there. I thought it might be a bit creepy. You're meant to go with a tour guide. You're not meant to go by yourself. I think it's illegal. I'm not sure. In so many certain areas, you're meant to go there because I guess it could be dangerous down there. My dad said that it wasn't that interesting when he went on a tour or something, that the sewer museum was better. It was a museum about the sewage system in Paris, I don't know. And all of the things are in French, but if you ask, you can get a translation of the museum tiles. So it's funny how that we are actually, I was speaking basic French, in the museum, but like asking for an English translation of the things, but we were still speaking French to the people working there, which was good. I did try to speak French in Paris, of course, but like only basic, conversations and all of that. But if I'd go to a different country, like where I spoke another language, I'd just be like, sorry, I only speak English. All of that. In 1948, the first report came about a puzzling 93-mile long wall built in Jordan. It's still unknown who made it, when, and why. Its purpose is not defensive. It was too low and narrow to have protected anything from anyone. It lies in ruins today, of course, but when it was still quite new, most of it was about 3 feet tall and 1.5 feet wide. The most popular theory explains the strange wall might have served as a farmland boundary. Researchers found traces of ancient agricultural lands to the west origin from the East Nomadic tribes. While we're still in Jordan, there's one more mystery here. Stone circles that date back 2,000 years. They're pretty big, with a diameter of about 1,300 feet or more. So far, scientists have discovered 11 of these big circles. Yes, that's their official name. Still, they're just a couple of feet high, making them even more puzzling. Originally, researchers believed they were huge corals for animals, but there are no openings between the stones the circles are made from to let people or cattle in or out. Currently, no one knows who built these ancient structures or why. Archaeologists in Glasgow excavated a 5,000-year-old stone slab in 2016 and then buried it again. The slab is called a Cochno stone and has been known to locals since the 19th century. The stone is large and flat, measuring 43 by 26 feet. It has swirling decorations that had been found at many other prehistoric sites across the globe. The stone was first fully excavated in 1887, but within the following decades it was covered in graffiti by unknown people. So to avoid further damage, a group of archaeologists buried it in the ground again in 1965. And then in 2016, another group of researchers unearthed the Cochno stone again to record the artwork using modern photography and surveying techniques. You've all heard about Stonehenge, but what about Superhenge? In 2015, archaeologists couldn't believe their eyes when they discovered a whole number of stone monoliths just a couple of miles away from Stonehenge. They had once stood upright, but about 4,500 years ago, the wind and erosion of the ground must have pushed them over, which is why nobody had discovered them earlier. Their purpose remains unknown, but scientists have a few theories. It could have been a giant Neolithical monument, or could have formed a C-shaped arena leading down to the Avon River nearby. The springs and a valley complete the picture, as the Superhenge might have served as some sort of decoration, or even as a part of a larger structure combined with Stonehenge, not far away. It's also a bit confusing, that article, because it was like going on to the next, there wasn't real separation between things. So usually I maybe take a bit more of a pause, etc. But it was a little confusing if we're moving on to the next one or not. So yes. So the next one is Danish spirals. Archaeologists in Denmark were truly baffled by the discovery of some bizarre Bronze Age objects during a series of digs in the area of Bleosuld in 2015. This nicknamed Golden Enigma came in the form of 2,000 tiny spirals of tightly wound gold wires, each no more than an inch in length, which if combined would make up half a pound of solid gold. Finding gold in Bleosuld is not uncommon, as the area is famed for its Bronze Age buried treasure. But these intriguing objects were a real head-scratcher for the team who discovered them. The spirals had been buried in a fur-lined wooden box, which had since decomposed, and researchers estimated the objects to date back to around 900 BC. Because no such discovery has been made before, their true purpose is unknown, but the curator of the Danish National Museum, where the artifacts are now held, has speculated that they may have been decorations designed to imitate the sun. So the priestkin may have adorned this cloak and hat with these unique objects so that their golden glow reflected the sun's rays, which is a highly sacred symbol during the Bronze Age. The find has encouraged archaeologists to begin more digs, hoping to unravel the mystery behind this extravagant display of wealth and power. So 10 million-year-old teeth. The next highly controversial discovery was made in September 2016 at a fossil site in Eppelsheim in Germany, sparking a hotly debated conversation about the origin story of mankind. The unusual objects in the image below may look like dinosaur claws or insects fossilized in amber, but is in fact two teeth believed to be around 9.7 million years old. The well-preserved teeth were recovered from sediments, and their incredibly close resemblance to teeth that belong to a fossil of an early human ancestor known as Australopithecus afarensis or Lucy posed important questions about human history. National Geographic has warned that although the teeth do bear striking similarities to our upper molars, they could well belong to an extinct humanoid primate or ruminant animal. More research is definitely needed, but these ancient teeth prove that we can never know enough about where we came from. So, medieval Britain. It's not always seasoned archaeologists who make surprising underground finds, as proven by a 34-year-old man who made an astounding discovery after taking up amateur metal detecting as a hobby. Mark Thompson had been scouring Sherwood Forest in Nottinghamshire for just about 20 minutes in 2016 when a signal indicated that there was a hidden treasure below the dirt. Mr. Thompson could hardly believe his eyes when he unearthed an ornate gold ring. The ring, which has since been examined by experts, dates back to the 14th century and is set with a sapphire stone, similar to one found in the tomb of former Archbishop of Canterbury, William Wesley, who died in 1374. A ring of such extravagance would have been an incredible show of wealth at the time, and its sides even showed intricate engravings of a female saint and an infant Jesus. The medieval artifact has since been referred to a coroner to determine whether it should be considered a national treasure. Its burial site right in the heart of Robin Hood's famous haunt might even suggest some truth behind the legend. Wow, that's crazy. Aluminium. I was thinking to myself how sometimes when I watch so much American TV, YouTubers, all of this, I forget how I say the word myself. So aluminium versus aluminum. Aluminium. But yeah, back in 1974, builders working on the shores of the Mureș River near the town of Aiud in communist Romania happened across a strange object buried 33 feet underground. But the discovery was not made public until 1995, when it became the center of a controversial conspiracy. The chunk of lightweight metal is just 7 inches in length and 5 inches in width, with a thickness of 3 inches. But when testing revealed it was made from 90% aluminium, alarm bells sounded. The unrecognizable object was estimated to be a staggering 250,000 years old, but as metallic aluminium was not produced by mankind until just 200 years ago. This discovery became one baffling mystery. So, the Aiud aluminium wedge has remained unidentified over the years, but its distinct concavities seem to suggest it had been manufactured, possibly as part of some larger pieces of machinery. Unsurprisingly, conspiracy theorists have claimed that the object is concrete evidence of some ancient alien species, which is far more technologically advanced than humankind. Others have tried to reason the wedge was part of a World War II German aircraft, but that still doesn't account for its age. Nowadays, it's delayed at the History Museum of Cluj-Napoca in Transylvania with a sign that reads, "Origin still unknown." So your guess is as good as mine. Thracian chariot. Karanovo in Bulgaria was the site of an exciting find for a team of archaeologists who uncovered this rare find back in 2008. The image below reveals a 2,000-year-old chariot from the Thracian era. The wooden chariot was covered in bronze and would have been decorated with scenes from Thracian mythology, which are now difficult to see in its decomposing state. Alongside the chariot were two complete horse skeletons, as the animals which pulled the chariot would have been ceremoniously killed before the burial. And in 2009, the team made a further discovery. A brick tomb contained the remains of a man dressed in armour, with several items like gold coins and a silver cup suggested the body was a nobleman or ruler who was deliberately buried nearby. Representing prestige, power, and authority, it was common for ceremonious chariot burials to take place in ancient Thrace. But the near complete condition is rare. Looters often attempt to uncover these burial sites to sell the precious artifacts on the black market, so finding and excavating this chariot before it could be pillaged is incredibly lucky. So Viking sword. The Viking age is shrouded in legend and folklore, so any evidence of the lives of these ancient Scandinavian warriors is highly valued by archaeologists. Surprisingly, a metal detecting hobbyist from Lopi in Finland uncovered an astounding Viking sword on his own farmstead in September 2017. Tumas Pitila happened upon the sword alongside part of an axe blade, pottery, and various burned bone fragments, which suggested the site of a crematorial burial. Pitila immediately contacted the National Board of Antiquities, who carefully removed the objects and dated the sword itself to the end of the Viking era, around the year 1000. The rare discovery gives insight into Iron Age life in the region of Lopi, and collaborative efforts between its finder and the National Board have discovered archaeologists with a well-preserved specimen. In the same month, a second Viking sword was found in the mountains of Oppland County in Norway by a pair of reindeer hunters who noticed the hilt sticking out from the rocks. The sword had been almost perfectly maintained by the high altitude at over 5,000 feet above sea level, and even isolated find like this can take us one step closer to a better understanding of Iron Age life. So, Scottish stone balls. For more than 200 years, the bizarre objects in the image below have been puzzling archaeologists from Ireland to Norway. Over 500 of these extraterrestrial-looking stone balls have turned up, with the most prolific area of discovery being the Orkney Islands in mainland Scotland, where the Scottish National Museum in Edinburgh houses the world's largest collection. Researchers have summarized that the stone balls were made up of Neolithic communities across the northeast of Scotland. However, their exact purpose still remains a mystery. Various functions have been proposed over the years, with the most plausible being that these palm-sized enigmatic balls were used as weapons or simply owed as markers of social status. The objects are not standardized in size or shape, and each ball has its own unique style and characteristics, such as knobs and spikes or intricately carved patterns, making them an impressive form of Neolithic art. We may not know why they exist, but painstakingly 3D renderings by the National Museums Scotland allows you to examine these strange artifacts in detail to speculate for yourself. So, jackpot, happening upon the biggest treasure trove in the history of Japan isn't something archaeologists can expect every day, but one team literally hit the jackpot in March 2018 when they made the incredible discovery in the image below. The giant clay pitcher was unearthed in the city of Hosuda during evacuations of the medieval epoch of the Warring Kingdoms during the second half of the 15th or 16th centuries. It's thought to belong to a former Samari. 27-inch pot contained 260,000 copper coins, which would have been connected by a rope to the characteristic hole in the middle of each coin at the time of burial, sometime after the 15th century. Rough estimations have valued the hoard at the equivalent of around $25,000 at the time. It's likely the owner of this treasure trove was in the upper ranks of permanent employment under the shogun. Archaeologists have theorized that the collection of savings was buried either as an offering to the deity of the earth or as a means of safekeeping during troubled times. But take this as a reminder to crack open your piggy bank before it's too late. And on that note, I don't get the point of cracking open the piggy bank. Maybe they're not all like this, but I've never cracked open the piggy bank. I think I accidentally broke it a little, but my one has like a bottom that you can just take out the money that you need. Honorable mention before we investigate the most amazing rare object. Here's an honorable mention: the Roman dodecahedrons. If you thought the Scottish stone balls were baffling, these interesting ancient objects will blow your mind. Around 100 of these strange artifacts dating back to the 2nd or 3rd century AD have been found over the years, anywhere from Wales, Hungary, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France. The Roman dodecahedron can be identified by its 12 bronze or stone pentagonal faces, each with a circular hole of varying size and knobs on each corner. But what does it all mean? As there is no mention of such an object in contemporary accounts or imagery, speculation has varied from candlestick holders, dice, knitting aid, or even measuring tools. The latter is unlikely, as the dodecahedron is not standardized in size, ranging from 4 to 11 centimeters. The discovery in coin hoards has also suggested they were of some value, but their existence continues to pose more questions than answers. So, ancient boulders. In May 2015, German granite supplier VGB Natursteine made an incredibly rare discovery near the Bavarian forest, the form of some seriously impressive buried stones. These giant woolstack weathered boulders range in size and shape with heights of almost 20 feet, the biggest of which weighed 72 tons and is over 1,500 cubic feet in size. Each boulder, carefully removed from the quarry, originated around 300 million years ago and was formed when a section of the planet's crust, known as a granite massif, was displaced. Rainwater then penetrated the surface strata of this huge section of rock, decomposing the edges and corners of the topmost layers through a process of spheroidal weathering. Over time, this chemical weathering process resulted in the formation of spherical layers of decayed rock, which then peel or spall off as concentric shells, like layers of a peeled onion, creating rounded boulders known as wool sack stones. So these uniformly rounded boulders have a solid granite core and a slightly rough surface, and their discovery demonstrates one mean feat of Mother Nature. VGB Natursteine is now listing these huge boulders for sale on their site with the intention of decorating parks, kindergartens, and swimming pools. Landscape boulders of this size can cost anywhere between $100 to $600 per ton on average, so that rock is likely tens of thousands of dollars. But can you imagine the shipping costs? My gosh. So a few more, but not as much explanation. A 700-year-old mummy was found under a Chinese road. So in 2011, a well-preserved mummified woman was found underneath a modern road in the city of Dazhou in the Jiangsu province of eastern China. The The woman, a member of the Min dynasty, was found by a construction crew working on a road that she was buried under. Construction workers described her as being submerged in a brown liquid. She was just under 5 feet tall and dressed in silk finery with robes, slippers, jewelry. Amazingly, her hair and eyebrows were still intact. After observing her and her tomb, Daisu museum director Wan Weinin estimated the mummy was about 700 years old. A child's letter to Santa Claus from 1943 was found in a chimney. A letter was written by a little boy named David, addressed to Santa Claus during Christmas 1943. The letter was presumably placed with care inside the chimney of David's home. 72 years later, contractor Lewis Shaw was helping demolish the same home. When his crew found this letter still inside the chimney, it read, "Dear Father Christmas, please can you send me a Rupert annual, a drum box of chalks, soldiers and Indians, slippers and any little toys you have to spare. Love, David." Miraculously, this letter was reunited with David. Shaw tried to track him down with Facebook and by speaking to his neighbours, who still lived close by. The search even gave birth to a social media campaign, #FindDavid. Shaw eventually found the still living David. Which year was that they found it in? Not sure. A 13th century mansion was found under Somerset, England. So in 2013, during construction for a housing development in Wellington, England, excavators discovered the foundation of a 12th century mansion. Archaeologists working on the discovery later discovered there were no historical records of the building. Normally, large estates have deeds and other records kept by the occupants, local lords, or church officials. While no sufficient information about the mansion's history or occupants have ever been found, archaeologists did discover a segment of tile in the mansion with a knight painted on it. Because this is similar to tiles at Glastonbury Abbey, this revelation made the site and mansion foundations instantly more important and of great historical value. While the housing project continued, the artifacts uncovered from the archaeological dig ended up being moved to the Museum of Somerset for study and preservation. So, an 1894 time capsule was discovered under a Scottish bridge. So, in 2015, in the Cairngorms National Park in Scotland, a 21-year-old time capsule was discovered by construction workers on a section of the Ruthven Road Bridge. The capsule itself was a metal block similar to a safe deposit box at a bank. When the capsule was opened, the items inside that were found included a bottle of whiskey, a newspaper from 1894, a scroll, and some other items. The items in the box itself were donated to the nearby Highland Folk Museum to be studied. It is believed the time capsule was placed within the structure of the bridge when it was originally constructed at the end of the 19th century. So, a 17th century African burial ground was found in Manhattan. So history is often obscured by the fog of time and more literally rubble. In 1991, plans to build a new federal building in Lower Manhattan began with excavation just north of the Tweed Courthouse in what is now Chinatown. As excavation progressed, workers discovered a 17th century burial ground where African people enslaved in what was then the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam had been continually interred for about a century. Between the 1690s and the 1790s, the site sits between Broadway and Center Street near Thomas Paine Park. Once discovered, the building construction was stopped and further archaeological excavation of the site unearthed the remains. Some individuals were even identified, notably Groot Manuel, who was identified by his living descendant Christopher Moore. 2 years later, the site was recognized National Historic Landmark. A decade later, the remains of over a dozen individuals were ceremoniously reburied, and in 2006, President George W. Bush proclaimed the area as a national monument. The discovery and preservation of the burial ground is of huge importance to both African American history and American history as a whole. So yes, I think that is the end for today's video. I hope, wait. This is the last one. A medieval hospital was found in Madrid underneath the future site of an Apple store. The bubonic plague swept from Italy through Europe. Hospitals became overwhelmed with plague victims, and many had to be shut down and abandoned when no physicians were left to treat sick patients. In 2013, the foundations of one of these hospitals was unearthed in Madrid when Spanish construction crews began excavating for the new Apple store that was to be built there. The hospital dates from the 15th century and was specifically used to treat sufferers of the bubonic plague. It continued to be used well into the 19th century, but it was closed and torn down in the 1850s. But yeah, that is the end for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be seeing you in the next one. So, bye for now. Bye for now.